So a quick YouTube community plug. I went and watched the Dirty 30 movie and it was amazing. I got to go to the pre-screening event that happened in Chicago. It was played in a theater the day before it released through iTunes and online stuff. And I went with a couple of friends and we watched it and it was so hilarious. And I'm just really awed and proud of what those girls were able to do with that movie and the fact that that is a thing that can happen, and I think that's really awesome. So I wanted to show the shirt that they gave us for going, which is really neat. It says, "I crashed Kate's bash," and Kate is Mamrie Hart's character in the movie, and it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. So yay for them. And in other news, I cut my hair off! I decided that I was finished with the long hair and I went for this and I am very pleased with it. It's a lot of fun. It's actually a haircut that I've wanted for years and years, but I didn't think that my hair could do it. But my hairdresser was like, yeah, we can totally do that. So I trusted her and she cut it and it looks awesome and I'm really happy. Yeah. So hi, my name is Craig Montgomery and we're here to talk about the things that make you say, who even am I? And today I'm going to be talking about change. Change has always been a very anxiety-inducing experience for me. I was very prone to schedules and making sure things were the same for a very long time to try and manage my stress and anxiety. Doesn't really work that way. You can't control everything. So exploring change and what that means and how to cope with it and how to build some resiliency and being able to handle when change comes your way that you don't really want. That's been a really big project for me throughout the years and a really big part of me coming into who I am now and who I hope to be moving forward is learning to embrace change, learning what change is, what it means, and how to deal with it. So I have some thinky thoughts that I'd like to share about change. I'm once again in a sort of transient moment of my life. Good friend of mine and a roommate that I've lived with for the past year and a half just moved away out of the city, so lost immediate contact with that friend. Our home is changing, and I also changed my hair and work is going really well. So just things are kind of moving, and something that I'm noticing is after I sort of did some work to observe what changes and how to deal with it and to sort of accept more of it, this period that used to be something that would be very stressful for me has actually been something that's somewhat easy to move through. It's definitely transient, it's different. I have some sadness about some of these things, I have some elation about some of these things, but I feel so much more stable being able to cope with many different forms of change happening at the same time. So I thought this was an apt time to talk about this topic. For me, what makes change kind of difficult is it's because it's completely out of my control, but it's also because it reminds me that I'm not in control. It's like coming face to face with the fact that I do not have control of my environment. I do not have control of anything that happens outside of what I do with my body. And that's something that's not really fun to really think about too much, because when you can't control a situation, who knows what's going to happen, I guess. That becomes really scary when you're forced to come to terms with that, when the world pushes in on you and really affects your daily life in different ways, and maybe in ways that you don't want. It can be very off-putting, just because you don't really know what to expect next. I think it really comes down to expectations, which, I just did a video on. What I talked about in that video is actually a really good stepping stone into what I started to do when I was working through changes, learning to manage my expectations, learning to use that word resiliency a lot, but learning to build resiliency into my expectations. So allowing myself to expect things, but understanding it may not happen, sort of finding that sweet spot where I can be disappointed without being crippling, and understanding that it's all inside me, blah, blah, blah. So really exploring that kind of helped me move into exploring change. and the change that happens when it's completely outside of my control. It's not always a choice that I'm making. It could be a choice that someone else is making. It could be something that just changes in the world. Out to girls. So I think change is particularly hard when you're attached to something and then it's being taken away. So I don't know, a person, a ice cream shop, your favorite restaurant, if it's ritualistic or relationship, it's something that you're attached to, that you get a lot of value out of, and then you no longer have access to that thing for whatever reason. I feel like that's the change that really kind of rocks me. There are other changes that I think obviously affect you as well, but that's the one that I feel like I had the hardest time getting past. And what's really interesting there is that I found that the things that I was using to try and cope with my fear of change was sort of isolating myself and building in this very tight schedule and regimented kind of world where there wasn't a lot that was allowed to change. So that's what I was trying to do, thinking that I was like managing my anxiety. And it actually was setting me up for failure because I was trying to control everything so much that I was putting myself in an environment where if anything did change, it would just affect me so deeply. So what I found that has been so much more life-giving and life-affirming and fun, and to be honest, is working in variety and really stretching my boundaries and reaching out for different experiences and moving outside of my comfort zone. That has really opened up the world in a different way than I was used to before, and sort of introduced change as like a good thing. And so it became so much easier to view things as they're changing as just a path to something new. And this space in my life might be empty right now, but instead of seeing that as a vacancy and something that was sad, as I kind of did before when I was trying to control the situation, it became an opportunity. It was like, oh, now I have some room in my schedule. I have some room in my life for a new thing. I can pick up a new hobby. I can try and meet a new person. I can start a YouTube channel. It's kind of what happened with that. It's been really interesting to see that transition, and I think that it's been extremely beneficial for me. So I wanted to share my thoughts on that in case it's something that someone else sort of has similar issues with. I think we all kind of have our own little issues with, change in our life, and they're probably particular to each of us in our own ways. But as I want to do with all my videos is really just kind of talk and start a dialogue and share my thoughts just in case it could possibly help somebody else. So those are my thoughts on change and kind of how expectations lead into change, and sort of a little bit of what I think you can do if you feel like you're having issues with change in your life. I hope that it was helpful. If you like what I've been doing, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe. I think I found out that if you get up to 500 subscribers, that YouTube gives you a specific URL to your channel, which I think would be really cool. And it would also make it easier for people to find the channel, which would be neat, because then the whole conversation part of this could start, because I really want to start talking with you guys about these things. I'd really appreciate it if you've been liking the videos to subscribe so I can try and make it to 500 subscribers. If you think that you know someone who would kind of enjoy my videos, I'd also super appreciate it if you would send them one of them so they could check it out and see if it's something that they would like. Because it would just be super cool to reach that marker. And I'm a big believer that if you want something and you put it out into the world, then there's just so much more chance that those things will happen. So that is what I'm asking. And if you like this video, give it a like, and leave me a little comment about what change means to you. Let's get deep, guys. As always, take care of yourself. Blah, 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 blah.